On the day of our 10th wedding anniversary, my wedding ring was on someone else's hand. When I came down from the operating table, I finally figured it out. I drafted the divorce agreement and handed it to her. Her little boyfriend was standing beside her, so anxious that tears streamed down his face. Ryan, Elena just lent me the ring to try it on. I really didn't mean anything else. Elena pulled him behind her protectively and said to me, "Fine, just don't regret it." But half a month later, Elena was the one who regretted it first. Chapter 1. Why didn't you cook? Elena came home half a month later, as if nothing had happened, frowning at the empty dining table. Usually, whenever she came back at this hour, the table would already be filled with all her favorite dishes. Today, there was nothing. Naturally, she assumed it was because she hadn't been home for dinner, so I had no appetite. The truth was, I had just come back from a big dinner outside. She set down her suitcase, rolled up her sleeves, and walked into the kitchen. When she came out again, she was holding a steaming bowl of egg noodles. I was still engrossed in the accounting reports in my hands. She placed the bowl of noodles in front of me, then pulled a solid gold men's bracelet from her pocket and handed it over. That was her way of coaxing me now. I looked at the noodles and the bracelet. When had this become the way she made it up to me? I remembered back before we got married, she had so many ways to cheer me up. She'd throw her arms around me, call me husband, and with a little magician's flair, pull out a custom-made tie, saying it was meant to tie me to her forever. She'd go biking with me, take a boat ride, or sit through movies she found boring just to be with me. As for gold bracelets, sure, I liked them, but only because they were the most practical kind of jewelry. Compared to the designer suits or luxury watches she liked to give, I preferred something plain and solid like that gold bracelet. But compared to sincerity, every material gift feels hollow. In the past, whenever she lowered her pride, I would play along, finish the whole bowl of noodles, praise her a little, and let the issue pass. But today, I already ate. I said, "When you have time, let's go finalize the divorce." Elena was a busy woman. She managed several companies, so I'd always been willing to adjust to her schedule. But clearly, Elena didn't care to appreciate that anymore. She tossed the bracelet onto the table, frustration creeping into her tone. "I've already explained about the ring. You know how busy I am. For something as trivial as cleaning the rings, of course I'd have my assistant do it." Victor saw our matching wedding bands, thought they looked unique, and asked to try them on. I just let him. I didn't think you'd take it so personally. Didn't think. Was it really that she hadn't thought, or that anything concerning me simply didn't matter to her anymore? Elena and I had been each other's first love. We met in high school, fell steadily in love in college. There were no dramatic, movie-like moments, only the quiet, innocent crush of a girl's heart. She once told me that one afternoon, she saw me reading under a cherry blossom tree. The wind blew, petals scattered like snow, and she said I became the moonlight she could never forget. She began pursuing me, but I was a poor kid. Studying was everything to me. So I told her, "If you can get into the same university as me, I'll be your boyfriend." After that, Elena stopped looking for me. I thought she had given up, until the day our admission letters arrived. She came running to find me, excited and glowing, only to witness my mother jumping off the rooftop. My family was poor, so poor that we often couldn't even pay my tuition. But even in poverty, my father, with his smooth tongue, always managed to attract women like moths to a flame. My mother had grown used to it. But that day, a woman barged into our house and snatched my mother's ring, putting it on her own finger. She said it belonged to her now. She said my mother was ugly, old, and worthless. For the first time, my mother called my father to confront him, but he only said, "It's just a ring. Do you really have to make such a big deal out of it?" After hanging up, my mother sat curled on the couch, murmuring to herself through tears, "It's all gone, everything's gone." Later that day, she climbed to the rooftop of our building and jumped. She died instantly. Chapter 2. That day Elena stayed with me for a long time, until my father came back. I got into a fight with him. Elena kept taking my side. When I hit my father, she did nothing to stop me. The moment my father retaliated, she rushed forward to grab him. That day my father ended up with a bruised and battered face. Later I told Elena, "If anyone ever dares to wear our wedding ring in this life, I'll chop off their hand." Elena touched my head and said, "If you marry me, I promise I'll never let anyone touch our wedding rings, because they belong only to us, their meaning is ours alone." I think I really fell in love with Elena starting from that sentence. I felt her view of marriage was right, but now it seems everything can change. Seeing that I had gone quiet for a while, Elena changed the subject. "When is our daughter's graded piano recital?" "I don't know. You should ask your mother about that." Elena's parents had never liked me. They thought Elena and I were from mismatched families and accused me of sponging off her. So after our daughter was born, they found excuses to take the child back to the old family home to raise her. At first I went to see our daughter often, but they always refused me. Either the child was sleeping or in a class. I've argued with Elena about this before, but she always said, "That's my mom. Do you really think she would harm the child?" Elena frowned, then took on a superior tone. "You should pay more attention to our daughter. Look, she's closer to Victor than to you now." I closed my book, irritation growing. "Isn't that fine? That way after we divorce Victor won't have to rebuild a relationship with her from scratch." Enough. Elena sounded hit in a nerve and lost her temper. "All you do is get jealous over nothing. Do you even look like a father now? Am I to blame for not looking like a father?" Her parents looked down on me, but they liked Victor very much. Victor was an overseas returnee, from a family that had long-standing ties with Elena's. After returning, he used his supposed credentials to get a job at Elena's company as an assistant. They came and went together, paired up on business trips and sharing the same suite, even going to school together to pick up our daughter. Even her parents kept asking Elena to bring Victor back to the family home for meals. I often felt Victor was more like her husband than I was. I didn't actually want to argue with Elena, but I couldn't calm my feelings. "Fine, you're right, because I'm not a good father. You've denied me the chance to be one again." My eyes were red as I met Elena's gaze. Her fists clenched tighter. Half a month ago on a rainy night, Elena and I came back from the family home. On the way she took Victor's call and left me on the roadside, telling me to take a cab home on my own. The rain was heavy and the night was dark. I was hit by a car while crossing the road. I woke from surgery to the news that Elena had been partying too hard in the car and the baby was gone. The disappearance of the child also took away the last bit of affection I still had for Elena. Over the 10 years we'd had countless fights. Each time Elena would storm into the study in anger and slam the door shut, ending the quarrel with a bang. This time was no different. The only difference was that I no longer wanted to reconcile. I took my packed luggage, placed the divorce papers on the coffee table where they could not be missed, and left without looking back. Chapter 3. I had returned to the apartment I used to call home. Since the night I beat my father up in that place, I hadn't come back for 14 years. After I left back then, Elena and I rented a tiny room near the university. Her parents opposed our relationship. Elena's stubbornness angered her father, and with a curt "figure it out yourself," he cut off all her living expenses. So Elena and I worked part-time jobs to support ourselves. Aside from classes, almost all our time was spent working. It was hard, but later that period became, strangely, the only truly happy and beautiful memory we shared over all those years. I received the keys to the house one night 5 years ago. Before my father died of cancer, he left this only house to me. I'd kept the keys in my hand for 5 years but never dared to return. Every time I came here, I would think of my mother. Now, this place had become my only refuge. On the second day after I returned, Elena called, but I didn't pick up, and she didn't call again. On the 5th day I went back to the hospital for a checkup and ran into Victor in the corridor. Seeing me, he looked surprised and flustered. "Ryan, there's really nothing between Elena and me. She brought me to the hospital because I twisted my ankle." When I said nothing, he seemed to notice the medicine bag I was carrying. "Ryan, are you unwell? I heard from Elena about your child." "I'm really sorry. It's all my fault." I nodded. "It is because of you, but it doesn't matter anymore." I was about to leave when Elena walked over with a composed face. She handed Victor the bag of medicines he had and snatched my medication away. "Sick. Why didn't you contact me?" She opened the bag and when she saw the iron supplements meant to rebuild blood, her expression stiffened. She must have remembered, out of guilt at the time she had said she would accompany me to the follow-up, and I had told her the appointment time. She turned to Victor. "I told you earlier, today my husband has a post-op checkup. I asked you to remind me." Victor's face went pale. "I'm sorry. I forgot. Organizing the boss's schedule is the most basic duty of an assistant. I couldn't be bothered to watch their duet, so I took back my medicine and left." Elena hurried a few steps to catch up and grabbed my wrist. Her tone edged with impatience. "Ryan, how long are you going to make a scene? Even if I forgot today, couldn't you have called to remind me?" "I'm not making a scene." I slowly pulled her hand from my wrist and spoke evenly. "Elena, this is a hospital." She caught the implication in my voice and stopped struggling. She offered to send me home. I glanced at Victor behind her and gave only a faint smile. "No need. Compared to me, Mr. Victor seems to need a ride more." With that I waved at Victor and walked out of the hospital. Behind me I heard Elena's hurried footsteps and Victor's startled exclamation. From the glass by the entrance I saw Victor trip and fall and Elena turn back. I quickened my pace and left. Chapter 4. A week later I wanted to call Elena to ask if she had signed the divorce papers. Just as I pulled out my phone, my mother-in-law's number flashed on the screen. I hesitated for a moment, then answered. "Dad." My daughter's hoarse voice came through the line. Before I could ask anything, her voice turned plaintive and tearful. "Why didn't you come see me when I was sick? Are you really like Uncle Victor said? Don't you want me anymore?" "Iris, you're sick. When?" Before I could get the rest out, the line went dead. Remembering my daughter's words, I drove straight to the old family home. Inside, Elena's family was gathered neatly around the dining table. When they saw me, Elena stood up from the table with a frown and scolded me. "Do you remember today is our family dinner? You haven't been home for days. I thought you didn't consider this place your home anymore." I ignored her and went directly to my daughter, touching her small, tender face. "What's wrong? Have you seen a doctor?" My daughter's eyes were red. She turned her head away, clearly still angry with me. Victor laughed and patted her head. "Just a little cold. She's almost better." "Ryan, why did you suddenly think of Iris?" If Victor hadn't spoken, I might not have noticed him. Now I saw him sitting on one side of our daughter with Elena on the other. If someone didn't know better, they'd think the three of them were a real little family. I picked my daughter up from the chair, sat down on the couch nearby, and apologized sincerely. "I'm sorry, Iris. Dad really didn't know you were sick. But see, you called and I came. Don't be mad." "Okay." Tiny tears slipped from her eyes and she nodded, clutching the hem of her shirt. "Wait here with Dad a moment." I kissed her temple, stood up, and walked toward Victor. Smack. To the shock of everyone, I swung a fist and struck Victor in the face. "You're naturally outgoing. I can't blame you for liking other people's wives. Flies don't land on a perfect egg. But if you talk nonsense in front of my daughter, I'll teach you some manners." Victor covered his face and skittered behind Elena. His eyes rimmed red. Elena's gaze flared with anger as she shouted, "Ryan, what do you think you're doing? That's right, no upbringing. Just hitting people." Elena's younger brother Marco rolled his eyes and looked at me with contempt. I laughed, and all the years of grievance flooded me at once. "Elena, I've put up with so much for you. Did you ever feel what I went through?" With Elena's warning stare on me, I yanked the tablecloth off the table. For a moment the room erupted in sharp screams and the sharp clatter of dishes hitting the floor. I grabbed another chair and threw it. It sailed past Marco and sent him tumbling to the floor, staring at me in horror. "You're crazy. You're crazy." Elena's mother rushed forward to hit me. I snatched a fallen wine bottle and smashed it on the table. The bottle shattered and glass sliced across the back of my hand, opening a cut. Elena's face turned pale for a moment. "Ryan." She stepped forward, and stopped when she saw the broken bottle in my hand. I lifted the jagged end, angling it toward Elena's mother who was charging at me. "Iris is my daughter. What right do you have to take her away? To keep me from seeing her? Now she gets sick and you don't even tell me. You all despise me. Yet you couldn't stop Elena from marrying me, so you dump all your anger on me." My gaze shifted and I faced Elena. "I spent 10 years tolerating this home. You ask me what I'm like, Elena. Have you forgotten who I was supposed to be? I'd never been someone who was easily bullied, otherwise I wouldn't have even dared to hit my own father. But for Elena I swallowed insults and retreated time and time again in the face of her parents' and brothers' taunts. Looking back now, wasn't my endurance the same as my mother's? My mother's repeated concessions only led to mistreatment by those other women. My constant yielding allowed Victor to even mistreat my daughter. I'd been wrong, terribly wrong, all these years. "Elena, I'm changing the terms of the divorce. Iris, I'm taking her with me." I tossed down the broken glass. In the stunned silence I gently lifted my daughter and walked out of the Liu family gate. Just as the car was about to pull away, Elena came chasing after us with Victor tugging at her heels. I turned and smiled at my daughter in the back seat, pressed the accelerator, and sped away, leaving them behind in a cloud of dust. Chapter 5. I first took my daughter to the hospital, and thankfully, just as Victor had said, she only had a mild cold and was almost recovered. When we got home, guilt crept in. "Iris," I said softly, "Daddy took you away without asking for your mom's permission. Are you unhappy about that?" Iris shook her head and wrapped her small arms around my neck, her voice sweet and tender. "I want to be with Daddy." My eyes stung. So it wasn't that no one in that family loved me, it was just that I'd rarely seen her, and I'd thought her feelings for me had faded away. I held back my tears and smiled. "But Daddy's place is small. It's not as nice as Grandma's house. If you stay with Daddy, you might not be able to go to those piano lessons anymore." My daughter didn't respond. Just when I started thinking maybe taking her away had been a mistake, her soft voice came again. "If I stay with Daddy, will it be hard for you?" "Maybe a little," I said, "but Daddy will be happier." This time, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears rolled down my face, soaking her small shoulder. By the time I coaxed Iris to sleep, it was already late at night. That was when I noticed all the missed calls from Elena. Since I hadn't answered, she had also sent many messages. She said she wanted to talk, admitted she was wrong about the ring, but that I'd gone too far this time, so we were even. Then she asked if I really wanted a divorce. After 10 years together, how could I be so heartless? I scrolled down, and the last message read, "Bring my daughter back. I won't let her go." I stared at that line for a long time. I hadn't planned to fight for custody before, because I thought I couldn't give Iris the comfortable life she had with her mother. But today, after hearing what Iris said, I changed my mind. Maybe, more than wealth or comfort, what Iris truly wanted was love. I didn't reply to Elena, just as she had ignored me every time I broke down in despair through all those sleepless nights. I started sending out resumes, and I began visiting law firms frequently. If I was going to divorce and fight for custody, I needed to prepare for everything in advance. Freya, a top attorney at one of the firms, was a very kind and helpful woman. When she noticed I was always bringing my daughter along, she offered to meet near my place, saying she wouldn't charge extra. I didn't want to trouble her, but it was difficult to manage things with Iris around, and after all, I was a paying client, so I accepted her offer and arranged a few meetings. As we became more familiar, she started coming directly to my apartment. One day, when Elena came looking for me, she happened to run into Freya in the elevator. When I opened the door, Elena standing there caught me off guard. I raised an eyebrow. Freya was expected, Elena wasn't. I let Freya in and blocked Elena at the doorway. "What are you doing here?" Elena didn't answer. Her gaze was icy as she watched Freya walk in. "Who is she?" "I don't think I need to answer that. If you have nothing important to say, please leave." I began closing the door, but before it shut, Elena forcefully pushed against it. The sudden impact slammed me against the wall. Freya reacted instantly, 2 quick steps forward, and pulled me out from between the door and the frame. "Ma'am," she said sharply, "you just hurt him." Chapter 6. I didn't mean to. Ryan. Elena's face darkened as she shoved Freya aside and reached out to steady me, but I avoided her touch. I hadn't planned to deal with Elena at all, but Freya persuaded me. She thought it would be better if the two of us sat down and talked things through. Just as the three of us sat down, Iris woke from her nap, rubbing her sleepy eyes as she came out of the bedroom. When she saw Elena, her eyes lit up in surprise and joy, and she ran straight into her mother's arms. "Mommy, are you moving in to live with us now?" Elena glanced at me but said nothing. Freya spoke up gently. "Iris, if Daddy and Mommy can't live together, who would you like to stay with?" Iris blinked, confused and innocent. "Why can't Daddy and Mommy live together? All my friends' parents live together." After hearing that, Elena and I both looked at each other for a moment, but I quickly turned my gaze away. Elena forced a smile and said softly, "Of course Daddy and Mommy live together. Iris will move back too, and the three of us will live together again." "Okay." A sudden wave of frustration rose in me. Why did Elena always choose to ignore the real problem? To pretend everything was fine? "Elena," I said, my voice flat, "I'm not going back with you." Iris looked at me, then at Elena. She wriggled out of her mother's arms and curled back into mine. "If Daddy isn't going back, I'll stay with Daddy. Mommy's very busy," I said softly. "If you go with her, she'll just take you to Grandma's house." Freya's eyes glinted slightly with an unreadable expression. She turned to Iris with a small, knowing smile. "And what's wrong with staying at Grandma's house?" Iris gripped my shirt tightly and pursed her lips. "It's not that. I just don't like what Grandma says. Grandma said Daddy doesn't want me anymore. And Uncle Marco says bad things about Daddy too. He says Daddy is a shameless freeloader. Uncle Victor also said that Mommy and Daddy will have a new baby and won't want me anymore." "They're lying," I said firmly. "Daddy loves you very much. These days, Daddy's been the one tucking you in every night, cooking your favorite food, playing with you." Elena's face went pale as a sheet. She stood up abruptly, her voice trembling. They say those things to you often?" Iris nodded hard. After Elena left, Iris tilted her head up at me and asked, "Daddy, are you going to divorce Mommy?" I froze. I didn't know how to explain it. She was still so young. "Children are very perceptive," Freya said gently. "Don't assume they're too little to understand. They often know much more than adults think." So, under my daughter's searching gaze, I finally nodded. After a moment, Iris whispered, "Actually, I don't like Uncle Victor at all." I smiled and stroked her hair. Chapter 7. For a long time afterward, I didn't see Elena again, only heard from the neighbors that a luxury car often parked in the alley late at night. The elderly folks guessed it must belong to some rich man keeping a mistress nearby. Meanwhile, my daughter and I continued living freely, carefree. She told me she didn't like playing the piano at all, that practicing for 2 hours every day was exhausting. She said her little feet could barely reach the pedals. I teased her, telling her it was because her legs were short and that she needed to eat more meat to help them grow longer. We were laughing when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I was surprised to see Elena's mother. I hadn't wanted to let her in, but considering her age and health, I opened the door and invited her inside anyway. Iris clearly didn't want to see her. She greeted her politely, "Grandma," then ran back into her room, shut the door, and didn't come out again. Elena's mother's expression visibly dimmed. That afternoon, she talked a lot. She said Elena had gone home furious and, ignoring the long-standing ties between their family and Victor's, had fired him on the spot. Victor caused a scene at the company, but Elena publicly berated him in the lobby, calling him a liar, an instigator who sowed discord between husband and wife, between father and daughter. Victor had never been so humiliated. He stormed out of the company and never came back. Elena's mother also said that Elena had moved everything related to her parents and to Iris out of the old house. She said she didn't want them anymore, that they were the reason her family had fallen apart. As she said this, Elena's mother apologized to me. She said she hoped I could take Iris back home again, and as compensation, Elena's father was willing to give me 2% of the company's original shares. I refused. They still didn't understand, between Elena and me, it was never about money. The fact that they even thought of using money to fix things only proved they still looked down on me. The reason they came to apologize wasn't remorse, it was fear of losing their daughter. Just like back then, when they reluctantly agreed to let Elena marry me. After Elena's mother left, Iris's mood was clearly low. To cheer her up, I took her to the nearby park. Unexpectedly, I ran into my childhood friend Aiden there. His son was about the same age as Iris. While the kids played together, Aiden asked how I'd been. I thought for a moment, then told him everything. Aiden hadn't changed much, still straightforward and hot-tempered. He cursed Elena, calling her a toxic woman, and told me not to ever forgive her. He said, "Women can be expert liars. Once you forgive them, they think you can't live without them, and next time, they'll only hurt you worse." After his rant, he turned around, and there was Elena, standing right behind us, her face pale with anger. Aiden didn't back down. He swore a few more times to her face before leaving with his son, exchanging contact info with me as he went. Elena had lost a lot of weight since I'd last seen her. She said she wanted to talk, so I brought her home. "I'm sorry." As soon as she sat down, she blurted out an apology, her face full of guilt. I was surprised. Since we'd gotten married, this was the first time Elena had ever said those words to me. I even glanced out the window through the glass, just to make sure the sun was still in the sky. Chapter 8. Are you disappointed in me? Elena asked quietly. I thought about it. To say I wasn't disappointed would be a lie, but that disappointment felt like something from another life. What did I feel toward Elena now? Probably just a trace of familiarity, slightly more than what I'd feel toward a stranger. When I didn't answer, Elena gave a bitter smile. "I know I brought all of this on myself. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but Ryan, I can't let go." I sighed. After all, I had loved her once, and because of that, I still hoped she could find peace. "Elena," I said, "how do you know you can't let go if you don't even try?" I used to think I could never let go either. That's why I endured it all for 10 years. Leaving wasn't a sudden decision. Every night you were called away from me. Every argument followed by cold silence. Every time you ignored how I felt, I thought about leaving. I was just like you now, clinging on, swallowing my pain because I couldn't let go. But people always reach the point where they can. You will too, Elena. Her eyes reddened, and she shook her head, glancing around the living room. Her gaze lingered on the familiar furniture as tears welled up again. "Ryan, is it still about the ring? Because Victor touched it. You think what I gave you lost its meaning, but that's not true. It never changed." "Ryan, I never had anything with Victor. In my whole life, I've only ever loved you. I'll buy you another ring. Okay, just one more chance. I promise no one will ever touch our wedding rings again." When I shook my head, the light in her eyes dimmed completely. "Ryan, you can't do this. We promised we'd be together forever, that neither of us would abandon the other. We said we'd grow old together and be buried side by side. How can you be so cruel now? Can't you give me just one more chance? Did you fall out of love? Do you like that Freya woman now?" I looked at her. If I really had fallen for someone else, would that make it easier for you? Elena froze, then slowly lowered her head. "Ryan, I didn't really mean it that way. I know. We both knew too well what it meant to love someone, and what it looked like when you didn't. There was a time when just seeing each other made our eyes light up, bright, alive, filled with the kind of happiness that needed no words. When you truly love someone, your eyes only ever see that person. There's no room for anyone else. And between Freya and me, there was none of that." Chapter 9. I'll cook you another bowl of noodles. I looked at the pleading in Elena's eyes and nodded. "Make 2 bowls. Elena walked into the kitchen while I leaned against the doorframe, guiding her on where to find things. Suddenly, the scene reminded me of our old rented apartment near the university. Elena had been pampered since childhood and had never cooked before. But one day I came down with a fever and hadn't eaten all day. By midnight, I suddenly felt hungry and said I wanted egg noodles. Without a second thought, Elena got up and went into the kitchen. That was the first time she ever cooked noodles. It took her a long while. The noodles turned mushy. The egg was a little burnt, and she even burned her hand, raising a blister. But after that day, she often cooked egg noodles for me. Just like now, she cooked, and I leaned against the doorframe, watching her. Snapping out of the memory, I turned away from the doorway. Being stuck in the past never does anyone any good. After a while, Elena brought out the noodles. Neither of us spoke. We just ate quietly, heads down. This would probably be the last bowl of noodles Elena ever cooked for me, so I treasured it, eating slowly, savoring every bite. But then, Elena suddenly started crying. Why? Why does even the taste of the noodles feel different now? I put my chopsticks down and looked at her weeping face. Yes, everything changes. That's why. In this life, when you have something, you should cherish it because it might take only one turn. And when you look back, nothing will ever be the same again. That night, Elena asked to stay. She wanted to sleep with our daughter. I agreed. The next morning, when I got up, the table was covered with breakfast, almost everything I used to love. I didn't know when Elena had left. The only one still there was our daughter, sleeping soundly. A few days later, I began receiving several packages. Most of them were our daughter's things: clothes, toys, books, even a piano. I looked at them helplessly. Sweetheart, we can't fit all this in our house. My daughter tilted her head and said, aren't we moving? Mommy said the apartment across from Rainbow Kindergarten is for us. That one's super big. Just then, Elena sent me a message. About the divorce. I agree. You have to accept your share of the property. Otherwise, I won't feel at ease letting Iris stay with you. The unit across from Rainbow Kindergarten, 308, is one apartment per floor. The code is your birthday. It's safe there, and it'll be easier for Iris to go to school. I looked around at the slightly damp apartment that always smelled of rain, then turned to my daughter. All right, we're moving. Iris and I went to check out the new place first. The apartment was fully renovated, complete with furniture and appliances. Especially the kids' room. Iris absolutely loved it. I immediately called a moving company and had everything moved over that very night. When I paid the bill, I couldn't help but curse Elena in my head. Couldn't she have just sent everything straight here from the start? Made me waste all that extra money. Chapter 10. A month later, Freya came to me with the divorce papers. She looked around my new place and sneered. Must be nice to have money. I washed some fruit, set it on the table, and sat down to talk with her. She told me that right after Elena left my place that day, she went to find Freya. Elena had asked her a lot of questions, but Freya only gave one answer. The best kind of relationship between a husband and wife, she said, is one where both people help each other become better, whether they stay together or not. After that, Elena handed all the divorce arrangements over to Freya. When I finished signing, I asked Freya how Elena was doing. Freya said she wasn't doing well. She told me Elena had fallen ill, recurring fevers that the hospital couldn't diagnose. When the fever finally went down, she stopped eating, couldn't sleep, and grew frighteningly thin. Freya said, don't go see her. She's already getting better. I just nodded. I knew, when someone goes through a major upheaval, it's like shedding a layer of skin. Like me, after losing our second child, I couldn't sleep for a long time. Even when I did, nightmares would jolt me awake. But once you get through it, everything slowly gets better. After the divorce, I was, well, a small capitalist. When Aiden heard I was job hunting, he couldn't understand. He said, you've got so much money already, why are you looking for a job? I told him, a person needs to find their social value in order to feel that life has meaning. He found that reasonable, and without hesitation, made some calls and got me into the planning department of his company. I was grateful to him. After all, I'd sent out countless resumes, but no one wanted me because I'd been out of work for too long. I really liked the job. A 9-to-5 schedule, easygoing pace. It didn't interfere with spending time with my daughter. When I was married to Elena, I never had to worry about food or clothes. Yet I often felt empty and lost. But after I started working, that feeling never came back. The atmosphere at the company was great, too. Every so often, there'd be team-building events. It felt like one big, lively family. Elena also came by often to visit our daughter. And sometimes, when her mother missed her granddaughter so much she cried, Elena would take Iris over to stay for a few days. I never objected. As long as Iris was happy, I gave her as much freedom and respect as possible. Freya kept in touch with both of us. Recently, she met a boy she liked and invited me out for barbecue. She said the guy was cold and hard to approach. She had no idea how to win him over and was getting frustrated. I gave her a few ideas, but she said none of them suited her style. That stumped me. Then Elena rolled her eyes at her and said, try chasing him with a stick. I was stunned. It felt like Elena had gone back to how she was in college. She could joke again, and she was much more easygoing. Freya got her drunk that night. As we were leaving, Freya supported a tipsy Elena and asked me, are you two planning to stay single forever? Honestly, I'd never really thought about it. It's not that I've sworn off marriage, but I don't expect love to come knocking, either. I'm just enjoying every moment as it is. Love comes and goes. Maybe it's best to just let fate decide.